Hidden beneath this land lies a $6 trillion treasure. Yet, it remains the poorest province in Pakistan. And now, it's the newest front line in the rivalry between the US and China. Welcome to Balochistan, where immense wealth collides with deep conflict.
Welcome to today's Geopolitical Explainer, where we break down the complex power plays shaping our world. Now, imagine a region with an estimated $6 trillion of untapped treasure right under the soil. So why is it one of the poorest places in its country? And why is it the newest hotspot in the rivalry between the US and China? Well, it's a story of just immense wealth, but also really deep-seated conflict. A high-stakes game is unfolding right now in a place called Balochistan. So let's just sit with that number for a second. $6 trillion. That's the estimated value of the untapped minerals just sitting under Balochistan's rugged terrain. To put that into perspective for you, that's more than 10 times the entire GDP of Pakistan. It's a staggering amount of potential wealth. But here is the absolute core of this whole story. It's a paradox. Despite sitting on all this incredible wealth, Balochistan is Pakistan's poorest and least developed province. And that huge disconnect? Well, that's the fuel for a conflict that's been raging for decades. You know, if you really want to understand the local grievance, you just have to look at the history of natural gas. So get this, it was discovered there in 1952. Within a year, pipelines were already sending it out to power the rest of the country. But it took 34 years before that gas was supplied to towns within Balochistan itself. That feeling of being exploited is absolutely central to everything that follows.
Now, this vast, untapped potential obviously didn't go unnoticed. Seeing a huge opportunity, one global power decided it was time to make a massive opening move on this geopolitical chessboard: China.
So China poured billions into what's called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. The plan was incredibly ambitious: build ports, roads, power plants, the whole shebang, really. The idea was to create a direct trade route from Western China straight to the sea, all while promising development and energy for Pakistan. But a lot of critics saw this very differently. To them, this wasn't development. It looked a whole lot like modern colonialism. They started warning about a debt trap, fearing the whole project was really designed to give China leverage over Pakistan when the country, inevitably struggled to repay those massive loans. However, when you dig into it, the reality is a bit more complex. Official data shows that a huge chunk, we're talking 80% of CPEC projects, are actually equity-based investments by private firms. So that means it's not direct government-to-government debt, it's more like foreign companies building and owning assets, which kind of complicates that simple debt trap narrative. But this massive investment ran smack into a very serious problem: the local population, who absolutely refused to be treated like pawns in this great game. You see, Baloch armed groups looked at CPEC not as progress, but as just another wave exploitation. They argued that China was just the latest power coming to extract their resources, while the local people got nothing, and so they began to actively resist. And this resistance, well, it wasn't just rhetoric. It turned violent. Since 2018, there has been a surge of repeated, targeted attacks on Chinese interests. What's really startling is that the people carrying out these attacks are often not who you might expect. They've included educated, middle-class individuals, even women, which just shows you how deep the resentment runs. So suddenly, the dream of a smooth economic corridor was clashing with the harsh reality of a growing insurgency. The security risks for Chinese personnel and their projects were becoming impossible to ignore, and it forced Beijing to start rethinking its strategy. As the security situation got worse, China started pulling back from key new investments, and the whole game began to shift. Beijing got cold feet on funding a critical railway upgrade, and then, right on cue, the Asian Development Bank, which is heavily influenced by the US and Japan, signaled that it might step in to fund that very same project. This instability and China's hesitation created the perfect opening for its main rival to make a countermove on the board: the United States. Now, the US has two major interests here. First, pushing back on China's growing influence in a very strategic region, and second, securing its own supply of critical minerals, like lithium and copper, stuff that's vital for everything from our smartphones to advanced military technology. So, Washington began exploring its own mining deals directly with Pakistan.
And all of this leaves Pakistan, and especially the people of Balochistan, caught right in the middle of a struggle between two giants.
So let's just break down what's at stake for everybody. For China, it's about securing a vital trade route and mineral access. For the US, it's about containing China and getting those same minerals. For Pakistan, it's all about economic survival. And for the Baloch people who live on top of this treasure, it's about having control over their own land and their own future. Here's what it all boils down to. This is so much more than just infrastructure. It's a high-stakes clash over resources, sovereignty, and the future of South Asia, with the local Baloch population right at the center, demanding that their voices finally be heard. And that leaves us with a final, crucial question to think about long after this explainer ends. When these giants play for treasure, who is it that really pays the price? What do you think is the future of this power game in Balochistan? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next explainer.